Tonight, Layl al-Arba'a, we
27th.
27 Rabi al-Awwal, which is on my head. We're in the book Kitab Tawheed by Imam Abu Muhammad Wahab, chapter number 54, lesson number 55. One should not say, my slave, male or female. In a Sahih Muslim, Abu Hurairah narrated that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, or translates to, one of you should not say, feed your Lord, Rabbaka, help your Lord in performing ablution, but he should say, my master, for example, feed your master instead of Lord, etc. Sayyidi. Or my guardian, Mawla.
My what?
My guardian.
Yeah.
Mawlari. And one should not say, my slave, Abdi, or my slave girl, Amati, but should say, my lad, Fatari, my lass, Fatati, and my boy, Julami.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. First of all, I apologize for being late. We were supposed to start 1:45, but the traffic is absolutely crazy. And just stuck here in the traffic for about 5 to 10 minutes on that road. I have to make a turn and go from the back. So you have to bear with me that I did have my GPS saying that I'm going to be arriving on time, but we've been pushed now more than 15 minutes or 20 minutes. The chapter and the chapter before and the chapters after, all of those chapters, they talk about glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His Lordship, and glorifying Allah Azza wa Jal in His worship, and glorifying Allah Azza wa Jal in His names and His attributes. Because the glorification of Allah is from the perfection of the Tawheed. No Tawheed can be achieved unless the person has some sort of glorification, ta'zeem, to the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can I just have this gap filled up? Gaps empty. That's for shaitan. Sit down for them. Lock it up. No Tawheed will be achieved unless you uphold Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the uppermost. And when you hear the name of Allah, something goes into your heart. So glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Lordship, worship and His names and attributes is part of your Tawheed. So you cannot have Tawheed unless you glorify His names and His attributes. And by that, the author is bringing here some of those things that would belittle that glorification. So in order to achieve the perfection of that Tawheed, you need to make sure that your tongue is away from some of the words that might indicate the scratch of the Tawheed. So some of those words can have some sort of scratching, belittling the name or the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's giving examples. In this chapter, following chapter, the chapter after, all of that. In a Sahih, and we have said a number of times, could be Bukhari, could be Muslim, could be both, here in both, and the wordings for Imam al-Bukhari. That Abu Hurairah narrates that the Prophet ﷺ, he says, لا يقل أحدكم أطعم ربك. None of you should say, that is, go on, feed your Lord, Rabbak. And here it could be that this wording, أطعم ربك, it could be from a third party saying to a slave to go and feed his Lord, his master. Or it could be from the master, the Lord himself, saying to the slave himself, feed me, feed your Lord. Again, what I'm saying. Either it's a third party saying to the slave, feed your Lord, feed your master. Or the person himself, who is the master, the Lord, talking to his slave saying, feed your Lord, means himself. Feed your master. What is the scratch here in the Lordship? That's a hint that this slave of his having a Lord which is having some sort of common between him and Allah the Almighty. That's what it is. And that's why the hadith was coming to not to say feed your Lord. Now, is that a prohibition or a dislike? Scholars are different. Is it dislike to say it or prohibited to say it? At'im rabbak. Because we do have some of the ayat that mentions in Surah Yusuf alayhi salam. In that surah, Allah Azza wa Jal, He talks about, for example, إنه ربي أحسن مثواي. Yusuf alayhi salam saying about the one who looked after him, Al-Aziz, he says, إنه ربي, he's my Lord. أحسن مثواي, he had given shelter to me. Now, here, the interpretation of that verse differs among the scholars. Some of them and most of them, they say, Lord here means He's the one who looked after him, and Lord here means the actual Lord, which is Allah the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala. Beside the point, for verily we know that the shar'u man qablana laysa shar'an lana illa idha wafaqa shar'ana. The shara' of the ones with predecessors, the ones with nations before us, is not our shara' unless our shara' is synchronized with our shara', with our sharia. So basically, the scholars, they differed, as I said, regarding whether the person, he is saying this haram or is saying it disliked. The hadith is saying, do not say, at'im rabbak, feed your Lord. Now, but if it's been mentioned in a different way, where there is no hint of slavery and lordship, then there is no problem. So if it is attributed, for example, to a third party, for example, أطعم ربه, he had fed his Lord, as a third party, then it does not entail the Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Prophet ﷺ, for example, he said in the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam about the signs of the day of resurrection, when he said, أن تلد الأمة ربتها or ربها, both narrations, that the Amma, a slave girl, is to give birth to her Rabbaha. Rabbaha means a master. Rabbaha is the same as Rabbi. So I said it because there is no hint whatsoever that there is a cross between Allah Azza wa Jal and the master of that. So this is mentioning in the third party, like the absent person. هذا يستيعب. Oh, it's on, is it? So we have freezing air and we have hot air. طيب. So أن تلد الأمة ربتها or ربها. If it's ربتها, there's no problem about that because ربتها is ta' or ta'nith, and ta' here is for the female, feminine, and feminine doesn't go to the Allah. So it's the word ربها, not ربتها. That's what the one we say that it's a proof to say there's no problem. طيب. Another way of saying it, that to say this is, he is my Lord, هذا ربي. Is that permissible? For verily, some people they say it is permissible because we said Yusuf alayhi salam, he said هذا ربي, and some they say no, it is not, it's not allowed. Well, we say the hadith says it's not allowed, and the hadith we're going to mention it now, and if the author, if he's taken that version of that hadith, he would have really made more encompassing words. And the hadith in Silsila Sahiha 803, and it is in Sunan Abi Dawood, Muslim and Ahmad, and authentic, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا يقولن أحدكم عبدي. None of you to say عبدي. And وأمتي. عبدي means my slave and my female slave. ولا يقولن المملوك ربي وربتي. And the one who is slave should not say, the one who is in possession of somebody else, a slave, he should not say my Lord, whether it's my Lord as a male, Rabbi, or my Lord as a female, my master and my mistress, or master lady. وَلْيَقُلِ الْمَالِكِ, and let the person who is the owner say fataya wa fatati, and we add wa ghulami, my boy male, my boy female, and my girl, my boy and my girl, and wa ghulami, the same thing, my boy. وَلْيَقُلِ الْمَمْلُوكَ, and let the one who is a slave, Sayyidi wa Sayyidati, my master and my master lady, wa Mawlai wa Mawlati, we add it, wa Mawlai and wa Mawlati, we add that. It's not to that because it's not the hadith, but it comes from another hadith. فَإِنَّكُمْ الْمَمْلُوكُونَ وَالرَّبُّ هُوَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Verily, the Mamlukun, you are the ones who are slaves, and the Lord is Allah Azza wa Jal. So this hadith definitely shows us that it is not permissible for the person to say Rabbi, my Lord, because there's a hint of there that is, you are scratching the lordship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're saying that he's equal to Allah. And if you had added the word Rabb to another name, which is like Rabbul Ghulam, the Lord of the slave, then there's no problem. Rabbul Ghulam, it means like is the master of the Ghulam. So this is permissible, and once the person hears it, he knows that he is not the real Lord, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. Now, if you have added the Lord to something which is not a human being, or it's not something which hasn't been commanded to do something, he's not from the taklif people, he's not being asked and being questioned. Like for example, you say Rabbul Mal, Rabbu al-Bayt, Rabbu al-Dar, Rabbu al-Manzil, all of these names, no problem. Rabbu al-Dar means the owner of the house, the owner of the money, for example, the owner of the property. So we call it here is attributing the Lord Rabb to those words which are, as I said, they're not mukallafeen, they're not being asked by Allah Azza wa Jalla to do something like the human being. Then it is like an addition of ownership. So when you say Rabbul Man, he's the owner of the man. Rabbul Dar is the owner of the house, and so on and so forth. Right. Second one, he said, قال وليقل سيدي ومولاي, let him say Sayyidi, my master, ومولاي. The word Sayyid is permissible to be said as long as you don't say that he is the Sayyid, which is the general one. For the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ana Sayyidu waladi Adam, I am the most eminent of the sons of Adam, wala fakhr. Sayyid, and Sayyidud Dar, and Allah He said about Surah Yusuf, وَأَلْفَ سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ, and both of them, they saw their master and next to the door. So the Sayyid, if it is being attributed to somebody, is no problem. Sayyidud Dar, Sayyidu waladi Adam, no problem. But as-Sayyid, for the Prophet ﷺ, he said, as-Sayyidullah. As-Sayyid huwa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, is it permissible to say as-Sayyidah? Yes, it is permissible to say as-Sayyidah, because for verily Sayyidatu Nisa, Fatima radiallahu anha, for example, Prophet ﷺ, he said, كل نفس من بني آدم سيد. Each soul from the sons of Adam is a Sayyid. فالرجل سيد أهله. For the man is the master of his family. وَالْمَرْأَةُ سَيِّدَةُ بَيْتِهَا. And the woman, she is Sayyidah. She is the master female of her house. سَيِّدَةُ بَيْتِهَا. أَلَا تَرْضَيْنَ يَا فَاطِمَةَ أَن تَكُونِي سَيِّدَةَ الْعَالَمِ. And that is, you Fatima, you don't want to be, you're not satisfied that you're going to be Sayyidat Nisa'il Mu'mineen. You are the head of the women of the believers. So she is, except of course, Maryam bint Imran. And that is, she cannot be her master, because Maryam bint Imran is one of those ladies we mentioned with a specialty from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said Sayyidatu Nisa'il Mu'mineen or Sayyidatu Nisa'il Ummah, all of them. Right, so the Sayyidah is to be mentioned in a way, not to be mentioned that, like these people say, ladies first. Ladies first. No, there's no ladies first. In Islam, men are first. الرجال قوامون على النساء. So if you go, these people say Sayyidati wa Sadati. They mention the Sayyidati what? Sayyidati wa Sadati. Before the copying the West. The West, you see, they are doing this because they are paying back or trying to fix what they have done before when they put the women in the dump and the woman was worth nothing. So they wanted to like sort of expiate for what they have done before. They put her in the front. So before she was deprived from all her rights. She was not even able to hold her name if she was to be married to somebody else. Her name will be for the family of the surname of the what? Of the male, the husband. And some of the Muslim countries even adopted that system. But when the Western come back, the Arab world, the Muslim world, they wanted to go back as well. Look at that. They follow them. So when the Western found their mistakes, then they were, oh, we have to change as well like them. So if we could see here that the women are, I wouldn't say half of the society, is all of the society. It's very important to know that without women we can't have a life. That's true. But they have to know that the women are always behind the men. They have to. The master of the house is the man. الرجال قوامون على النساء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said الرجال قوامون وعليهن ولهم عليهن درجة. They have got as well a step over them. So what is the daraja here? Is the qiwama. They are the masters. They are the one who holds, for example, the marriage. There's no such thing the woman divorces her wife. It's the man who divorces his wife, not the wife divorcing her husband. She could ask for a khula', is to go through the proper channels, but she can't just say to her husband, divorce, get out. She can't say that. It's the man. So the Prophet said, "Innahunna awanun indakum." So by the way, they are like slaves with you. The word slave here is not the slave that comes to the mind. Oh, I could whip her and lash her and. عوان عندكم. النساء عوان, slave. Because of that, because they are behind their master. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not allowing for a female Muslim to be married a non-Muslim male. Why? Because you're going to follow him. Whereas vice versa is allowed. The male Muslim is allowed to marry Christian women or a Jewish woman from Ahl Kitab, but not vice versa. So not a Jewish man or a Christian man can marry from what? Muslim, because they are always, the women follow their husbands. That's the case always. Yes, you'll have some odd cases where the woman, she is the head of the family and the man is like a woman, okay, but that's very rare, okay, and usually in a healthy house. One of the characteristics of the spiders, the female is the one who's stronger than the male, and she's the one who eats her husband. There's a murder in home, murder at home. She eats her husband, and that is why their houses are the most weakest house. Inna awhan al-buyut the baytul ankabut, because the woman, she's the female, she's the head. So the man has to be the head, and he has got the wilaya. He's got the as well the qiwama. He is the kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyat. All of you shepherd, and each shepherd is responsible for his flock of sheep. الرجل راع في أهله. The man, he is responsible of his family, of his wife. She has to refer to him. So راع في أهله ومسؤول في عن رعيته. Then he says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and let him say Mawlai, no problem. There is a narration in Sahih Imam Muslim which is not authentic, and maybe some people have read it, so we could just make sure that we clarify that issue. Is this says لا يقل مولاي, don't say Mawlai. That addition is, as our Shaykh al-Albani says, shadh, unauthentic. It does not synchronize with the wordings. So it is found under the hadith of 803 Silsila Sahiha, where this addition of La taqul Mawlai is not really authentic. It's actually, Mawlai is less easier than the word Sayyidi in general. So when you say Mawlai, is not as powerful as what? As Sayyidi. Sayyid is more. So if the Sayyid was allowed to be called, so the Mawlai by default, then it's allowed as well. So saying Mawlai, Mawlati, no problem. وَلَا يَقُلْ أَحَدُكُمْ عَبْدِي وَأَمَتِي. Let one of you not to say that if he's a master, my slave boy, my slave girl, my slave male, my slave, female. And let him say, فتايا وفتاتي وغلامي. Another narration, وجاريتي. Let him say, فتاي, my boy, my fatati, my girl, غلامي, my boy as well, my chap, huh? وجاريتي, my female slave. So that is, should not say, sorry, my female, my jariyati, my female. So here, this as well, again, you could apply the same thing regarding what we have applied regarding Rabbi, and with regarding as well the word Rabbi wa Rabbati. Okay, all of those, the same thing, we could apply it, where to say it and what to say. The whole chapter is all about making sure that you have no words what would scratch the lordship, that would belittle the glorification of Allah Azza wa Jal in your heart. That's what it is. So all the chapter is all about that. And look at the beauty of Islam, how the Prophet of Allah, when he had prohibited something, he had opened a door to something which is allowed. So don't say this, say this. And this is for us to learn. For verily, when we say this, we make it easy for the people. Number two, we make the people believe that Islam is spacious. It's not all of it don't. There's do as well. So if I open don't do, there is what? A do. So don't say Rabbi wa Rabbati, say Fatai, say Sayyidi wa Mawlai. Don't say Sayyid, don't say for the master Rabbi, and don't say for the slave Abdi wa Amati, but say Fatai, Fatati, Gulami, Jariyati, all of those. So when you close a door, you open the door. You have to learn as a da'i to do that in order to make it easier on the people. And number two, to make sure that the people know that Allah had sent Muhammad with a spacious religion. Prophet when he had made the Eid of Al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr in Medina, he said, let the Jews around the Medina know that our religion is spacious. Why did he say that? Because the Jews at that time, whenever the women, for example, they have their menses, they isolate them. They treat them like animals. They're not allowed to eat along with the men or the family. So the Prophet said, let the Jews know what we have. Spacious religion. So spacious that the person in that Eid, he could really, for example, have the duf to listen and all of that. Okay, subhanAllah, goes hot and goes cold. That's why I'm just... يا الله تعالي بعد ساعدني شوية. شوية حرارة يا شيخ تيجي من هنا من هنا. Next time bring a piece of cloth. Close this. Allah المستعان. في piece of cloth. Otherwise I'll take this and I'll put it there. Because really heat comes. طيب. Now the issues please. And let's go for the following chapter quickly.
Important issues of the chapter. Number one, forbiddance of saying my slave boy or my slave girl.
Number two,
the slave should not say my lord, nor should it be said to him, feed your lord.
Okay. Number three,
teaching the master to instead say my lad, my lass, and my boy.
Number four,
teaching the slave to instead say my master or my guardian. And number five, the point here is to emphasize Tawheed in the fullest, even in one's expressions.
Okay, even somebody's wordings. Right, so we'll just add to number one. He says, don't say Abdi wa Amati. So we said the hadith. And then number two, it says what? Do not say Rabbi. Add Rabbati as well in the hadith. So Abdi wa Amati and Rabbi wa Rabbati. So the second issue, put it Rabbi and Rabbati for a female. And also he says At'im Rabbak. Third one, he says Fatai wa Fatati wa Gulami wa Jariyati. Add wa Jariyati as well as a wording for that. You're allowed to say it. And also he says here Sayyidi wa Mawlai wa Mawlati wa Sayyidati. So Sayyidi and Sayyidati. Mawlai wa Mawlati. All of those are allowed. Let's go to chapter 55 please.
Chapter number 55. Whoever asks with the name of Allah is not to be rejected. Ibn Umar narrated that Allah's Messenger said, or translates to, if anyone makes a request in Allah's name, give it to him. If anyone seeks refuge by Allah's name, give him refuge. If anyone gives you an invitation, accept it. And if anyone does you a kindness, recompense him. But if you have not the means to do so, pray for him until you feel that you have compensated him. Abu Dawood and Nasa'i mentioned this hadith as graded as Sahih San.
You said the translation of which we would like to stick with the Quran only translation of which, so we don't mix up. Okay, so the Prophet said, and the translation, because all of it. But as for the, because I want to distinguish the Quran, you understand me? Translation of which. Right, Jazakallah khairan. طيب. This chapter again is to do with glorifying Allah Azza wa Jal. He says a person who asked you by Allah should not, he said, لا يرد. لا يرد me here is not fit to be turned back. This chapter also entails that you may not turn him back. So it is like a prohibition. لا ترد من سأل بالله. Don't turn back the one who asks you by Allah. And at the same time, it says nafi, means negation. Even if it is allowed, it does not fit. So it is not allowed because saying this, don't do it. And plus, if a person do it, it's not fitting. How can you, Allah, the creator of everything, created you and created everything, the one who had gave you all of this, and somebody had asked you in the name of Allah to give him that. So if he used Allah as a wasila, as a means of taking his thing, and yet you turn him down, that means you have no sort of in your heart glorification of Allah. Do you understand that? So the glorification of Allah, that if somebody asks you, Allah, you should shiver. Okay, brother, you've asked me, but Allah have to give you. Okay, so bab la yuraddu man sa'ala. If somebody asks you Allah, you have to give him, because you asked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the scholars regarding this issue are different in three manners. One, you must give him. One, it is disliked to be, so it's haram not to give him if he asks you. Number two, disliked to give him. Third opinion, which is the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, which is the best, which is depending. Either it is haram to return him back, or it is disliked to turn him back, or it is permissible for you to turn him back. First one, that is prohibited to turn him back, that if he came to you individually and you know that he is a truthful person, I ask you by Allah to give me this, that's, you must fulfill it, and prohibited not to turn him back, prohibited to turn him back. Second one is that he came to you and he came to others, he's asking this and this and this, like a beggar. The beggars, I ask you by Allah, I ask you by Allah. Then it is disliked to turn him back if you knew that he's truthful, but he's asking lots of people. The third one, which is, you know, he's a liar, most likely, and he's asking you by Allah, then it's permissible for you not to fulfill his request. So all these are to be applied and implemented accordingly. لا يرد من سأل بالله. Person who asks you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should not be turned back. Now this hadith, which is he had narrated from Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, that the Prophet, he says, man sa'ala billah fa'a'tuh. He asked you, by Allah, give me. You have to give him, because you are honoring Allah Azza wa Jal. Before we go ahead and say you give him or not to give him, we ask the following question. Are we allowed to ask that question? And that's a better even. Are we allowed to ask somebody by Allah? By Allah, give me. We say it is not allowed unless it is a very necessity. Prophet ﷺ, when he had taught the companions not to depend on anybody else except to depend upon Allah. Even if a person's staff had fallen from his hand, he should not go and ask his brother to pick it up. He should what? Pick it up himself. If the person always depends upon himself and does not ask the people to do favors for him, people will love him. Prophet he said, "Izhad bima fi yadi nas yuhibbuka nas." Keep away from the things which are in the hands and the possession of your brothers. Then the people will love you. So always, we call it in Arabic, izzatun nafs. You have a dignity for yourself. Izzah. The person who is just like, he's a loose person. He sees you, for example, eating something. He doesn't really have no shame whatsoever. He just puts his hand without even asking. And if he's even not in need. He doesn't know, I'm hungry. So the brother says, do you want me to buy you something? Yeah, brother, go and buy me. Well, he'll buy you once, but next time he'll run away from you. Because you can feel that you're a spongy person. You know a spongy person? That's what it is. You just want to take advantage. But if the person, he says, no, the person would love to give him. Wallahi. He would let, this person was, no, I will pay. They love him. They will invite him all the time. But that person was, yeah, go on. Yeah, well, once time, no, Salaam alaikum. I will just, from far away. Because I know this is a spongy person. He's not really, we don't want to be like that. So the person should know the following hadith. In Silsila Sahiha 2290, Prophet ﷺ, he said, ملعون من سأل بوجه الله. He's cursed, the one who asked by the face of Allah. How can you ask by the face of Allah? Something to do with the dunya. You ask for money. Give me by the face of Allah money. Mal'oon. You're under the curse. And we have a story regarding this. If we look at the hadith, it's Silsila Sahiha 2290. There's a story which was narrated by the son of Abdullah ibn Ibn Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu. So let's just go to the narration which says, طيب. Here, narration is in front of me. When Yazid ibn Muhallam had taken charge of Khurasan. Khurasan is a land where he was in charge of it, the mayor of it. He said to the people, inform me of a man who has good characteristics. I want to give him some of my job because I want to trust him. So they told him about Abu Burda, the son of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. His father is a companion. So when he came to him, he saw him a fit man. And that is why he saw that his inside better than his outside. He's fit for the job. So he said to him, I've given you that such and such land to be in charge of. Part of Khurasan. Khurasan is a big land. So he said, oh leader, I cannot, please excuse me for this. Ayyuhal Amir, you are the leader. I mean, should I inform you something that I've heard from my father, that he heard from the Prophet ﷺ? So go ahead. He said he heard the Prophet of Allah saying, he who had been put in charge of a job and he knows from himself that he is not fit for the job, then let him prepare himself a seat in the hellfire. And by Allah, I testify for you, leader, that I am not fit for the job. So he said to him, Yazid, for verily now you make me sure that I want you. That makes me feel that you are the one who is fit for the job. Because the one who is fit always what? Doesn't want the job. But if he's fit, yes please. Can I be what? How can I be promoted please? When am I going to be promoted? This person wants to run away. Now I am pretty sure that you are the one for the fit. You have actually prompted me. That's it. You have no choice. Give me your covenant. أخرج لي عهدك. Come on, give me your word. That's it. So because he had insisted, he gave him the word, and then he had stayed in the work with Allah knows how many months and how many years. And then he had taken permission again to come to him again. So he gave him the permission. He said, Ayyuhal Amir, you leader, for verily, shall I inform you of a hadith I've heard from my father, who he heard from the Prophet of Allah? He said, go ahead. And he's mentioned the same hadith. And then he said to him, I ask you by the face of Allah that you should, make me to resign from this job. So the Amir, he resigned him. He had, you could say, released him. Now, we've got two things here. He asked by the what? But he did not ask for the face of Allah for something for dunya. He asked it for the what? For the akhirah. So you're allowed to do that. This is not dunya. He doesn't want the dunya. He wants to divorce the dunya. Number two, that leader, he did not return him back. He did not turn him back. He said to him, Khalas, you're released. Because he asked for the what? By the face of Allah. He must have learnt how to get away from his job. So if you ask from the beginning, but this time he said, I don't want it. He doesn't want dunya, he wants akhirah. So he had released him. So this to show us that if a person asks, and this is the following chapter, لا يسأل بوجه الله إلا الجنة. You can't ask anything by the face of Allah except for Jannah. Don't ask by the face of Allah give me a car, by the face of Allah give me money, by the face of Allah give me a job. You're belittling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's glory in your heart. Allah, you ask with something to do with dunya? Don't do that. And I don't want the beggars to be my students for tonight. They might know now what is the key to the pocket of the rich people. By Allah, I ask you. And then you have to give him. But remember what that Ibn Taymiyyah had said. You remember? If you know that he's a liar, it's permissible for you not to give him anything. It's not really incumbent upon you. So, Prophet ﷺ also he had said, and this is mentioned in Silsila Sahih of Shaykh al-Albani 255. أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِخَيْرِ النَّاسِ مَنْزِلًا. Shall I inform you, the best of the people in rank-wise? He said, yes, Messenger of Allah. He said, a man who is holding his horse, and that is for the jihad, making jihad fi sabilillah, until he dies or he will be killed. Then shall I inform you the one who is just below him? He said, yes, Messenger of Allah. He said, a man who is secluding himself, isolating himself away from the people in a valley, and he is establishing the prayer, giving the zakah, and that's the second in rank. Shall I inform you of the worst of the people in rank? He said, yes, Messenger of Allah. He said, the one who asks by Allah the Great, and he will not be given with it. So there's two big people here, the ones who are bad. The one who asks by Allah the Great, and the one who does not fulfill his requests, both of them. So in this hadith, it shows us that you should not ask by Allah Azza wa Jal things to do with the dunya. You could ask something to do with the akhirah. And it is also prohibition upon the person who had heard somebody asking him by Allah not to give him what he had asked for. Okay? So that is why Ata ibn Abi Rabah, rahimahullah, he says that he was disliking that person would ask by the face of Allah or by the Quran anything to do with the dunya. طيب. He says then, وَمَنِ اسْتَعَاذَ بِاللَّهِ فَأَعِذُوهُ. And he who sought refuge in Allah, then give him refuge. Prophet of Allah, he was having the nikah, marriage. Nikah means let's say the wording that he wants to marry. Bintul al-Jun, or Bint al-Jawniyah. Bint al-Jun, she's mentioned in authentic hadith. As soon as he entered upon her, she said, أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْكَ. I seek refuge in Allah from you. So he said to her, عُذْتِي مَعَاذًا أو عُذْتِي بِعَظِيمٍ. You have sought refuge in somebody's great. الحقي بأهلك. You divorced. Prophet did not even touch her. So he got married to her, but now he wants to intercourse. So before he touched her, he approached her, she said, أعوذ بالله منك. I seek refuge in Allah from you. He said, you have sought refuge in somebody great. So he has to what? To fulfill it. So he said, go, you're divorced. وَمَنْ دَعَاكُمْ فَأَجِيبُوهُ. And he who had called you, then respond to him. And here, invited you. Invitation, the scholar they said, which are incumbent upon you to come to them, are the weddings. Walima. If somebody invited you for a walima, you have to come unless you knew that there is haram in that walima. Whether it's haram food, or haram venue, or haram mixing, or whatever. Music, then you don't go. But if it is nothing to do with that, then you have to come. Because if you don't come, it will break relations between the brothers. Why don't you come to my walima? Something wrong, akhi? So you have to. But if it was not a walima for the urs, for the marriage, and it's a normal invitation, then it is recommended, not to say highly recommended, to bring the bonds better, to accept that invitation. But if you said, I've got a job to do, I'm too late for me, and I'm tired, please exempt me from that, then it's no harm because it's not compulsory. وَمَنْ صَنَعَ عَلَيْكُمْ مَعْرُوفًا فَكَافِئُوهُ. And who does for you a favor, then reward him. And the reward has to be matching that favor. So he gave you a gift of money, you give him a gift of money. Okay, he gave you a favor of intercession by himself. You gave him a favor of intercession. So the same. So you intercede for him. So he gave you something, he gave him something. He gave you a favor of food, he gave him a favor of, that's the mukaba. If you and the link between this and the Tawheed is that when a person gives you a gift, ya akhi, you feel in your heart that you are somehow in debt to this person. So the Tawheed is that your heart has to be what? Clear. So when you give back, you'll be powerful. Do you understand me? So if somebody gave you a gift, you give him a gift, it'll be powerful. You look at him, yes, I gave you a gift, you know. You're not going to say that you're powerful, and your heart will be more of accepting Tawheed because you are only making humility to Allah, nobody else. I don't want to have any minna in Arabic, favors on me. So because this person, if he gave you a favor and you did not pay it back, he might ask you later something which you don't like to do it. Do you understand me? He might ask you something that you don't like to do it. But if you gave the favor back, believe me, he can't, I'm going to give him another favor. Maybe before he, gives me back, I have to give him a favor so I could ask what I want to ask. And that is why I say, always, akhi, reward the people who reward you. And if you can't, because he's better financially, you are not able to repay exactly back as what it is, then فادعوا له حتى تروا أنكم قد كافأتموه. Keep making dua for him. Not just the dua in his absence, in front of him. جزاك الله خيرا وأحسن الله إليك وبارك لك في أمالك وفي عيالك وفي زوجتك وفي أهلك. When he hears that, the man will be subhanallah, or the sister will be mashallah. May Allah give barakah into your family, and may Allah increase your money and abundance. I think that man he doesn't want any gift. He wants just the dua from you. So you make dua, jazakallahu khayran, the best word. Then after that you could follow. Barakallahu laka fi malika wa iyadika wa nafa'a Allahu bika wa ba'da anka ahla as-su'. All of these words. So keep making dua until you think, alhamdulillah, I have repaid him back. طيب. Issues, please.
Important issues of the chapter. Number 1, grant protection to those who seek protection with the name of Allah. Number 2, give if one asks with the name of Allah. Number 3, acceptance of the invitation. Number 4, return kindness that has been done to you. Number 5, if one has no means to repay kindness, then supplication for him is a compensation. And number 6 is Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's statement, until you feel that you have compensated him.
From paying back the debt of the reward of the favor that has been given to you as well, from the good things that you're doing, you are actually encouraging favors. You are encouraging people to give favors, because if you start giving back the favors, people will be encouraged. But if the people sense that these people, I did the favor to him, I didn't find anything from him. Okay. One day I was invited by a person, and he's invited me, and he said, okay, you are invited, but please, there's a friend of yours, don't invite him. This bothers me. So why shouldn't I invite him? I don't want to invite him. See how many invitations you have invited us? How many invitations our friends have invited us? This guy never invited us at all. I don't want to invite him. Do you understand? So if you do, because that person invite you, maybe 4 or 5 times, invite him at least once, akhi. If he doesn't have an invitation from you, then he's going to say stingy, this person is stingy. And stingy people are disliked. People that don't want them, want to keep away from them. They want to be with the generous people. The generous people, always people that love him. Stingy person, always hate him. شر ما في الرجل, the most disliked thing in a person, شح هالة, stingy. As soon as you come to his house, press the button, the fridge is empty. Allahu Akbar. Nothing in the house. And he comes to you in the moments where he knows where can he eat the shoulder from. Subhanallah. Nothing in his house. He come, yeah, can I have this, brother? Can I have this? What is this, brother? Allahul Musta'an. I had many of these people, and I've seen, believe me. طيب, we will adjourn the 3rd chapter, which is linked to it, لا يسأل بوجه الله إلا الجنة, to the inshallah next week. So it will be as well a revision of what we have been taking. Okay, so we will ask you to give us question for the next 10-15 minutes, please, and I have to leave by maximum 7 minutes past 9. Now, Fadal.
Is it okay to negotiate when buying and selling?
Is it able to bargain when I'm buying and selling? No problem to bargain as long as you do not bargain in a way to make that person lose when you know that he's going to lose. So you are actually disheartening that person so much that he feels that that stuff is nothing, and maybe you know that's worth something, if you understand me. So we want the bargaining the other way around. What's the bargaining the other way around? When a companion sent somebody to go and buy a horse, his sons go and bought it for him, and they bought it for him, and they got it for 200 dirham, 200 dinars. He said, 200, this is 200. Are you sure you bought it for 200? Give me the man who bought it for. He said, why did you buy it? Why did you sell it for 200? This is worth more in the market. It's worth more in the market. He said, do you want 400 for it? He said, yes. Do you want 600 for it? He said, yes. Do you want 800 for it? He said, yes. 800, that's the price of it. He had it for 200 and he paid what? 800. He was bargaining the other way around, upwards. Now he felt that this is the right price for it. This is what we want. But people, they know, for example, this mobile cost, let's say, £100. Used, nice, everything. So you come to the person, brother, I'm going to give you £10. Oh, okay. What happened to that person's heart? Do you understand me? He wants to hit you with it. Do you understand me? What do you think I am, a daft person? He says £10? You know this being known, everybody's £100. I mean, if you said 90, 80, I would say, but £10? Allahu al-Musta'an. I mean, yes, if you knew that there's people who, that there are people who are always, whack the price so much, that's something. Like, for example, when somebody goes to Saudi Arabia, brother, as soon as they give you the price, give half. Start with a half. Yeah? And they'll say, give with a half, because they don't know the price. And actually it works. Even you get it less than a half. Otherwise, you're going to get up like me. I had really a big story with me. I have been conned very badly. Very badly. Because we think that everybody's got a beard, mashallah. Khalas, he is a person who will not con you. But some people really, they make Allah by Allah. They don't make Allah. So, you remember the cloak. I think I've said about the cloak here, and I purchased the cloak. I'm not going to say it because it takes a bit of time. So please come to the following question. Now, Fadal.
Are you allowed to reject a gift from someone that shows off?
Am I allowed to reject a gift from someone whom is showing off? Of course you're allowed to reject if you know that 100% is showing off, and he's going to humiliate you with that gift. For the Prophet of Allah, he took to the pulpit. He said, I am not going to accept any gift from anybody except from a Qurashi, Dawsi, Thaqafi. He mentioned the tribes. Because every time somebody gives him a gift, they expect a return from the Prophet. So the Prophet gives him even a better return, and he's not satisfied. So I said, hang on a second, khalas. I am not going to accept any gift from anybody. And he made it onto the pulpit. I don't want to accept gift from those. I want to accept from those people, because those people, they don't really rub their favors. Rub their favors. One person, he came to a rich man. Maybe this story being said to me by a scholar. A rich man. Why he said it to me? Because I did something which I did not mean it, but he said to me, I gave him a perfume, which was like a present, which I liked so much. So I wanted what the Shaykh thinks about it. So after that, did you like it, Shaykh? He smiled, he looked at me. And I remember his smile, his cheeky smile. Said to me, there was a man who was to be poor, complained to a rich man. He said to the rich man, every time somebody gives me a gift, he humiliates me. He reminds me of that gift. So the shirt, look, how nice is the shirt, brother? In front of everybody. So one day, this rich man, he said, oh yeah, they're bad, these people. Okay, I'm going to give you shoes, nice shoes. So he gave him the nice shoes. And listen to me, the rich man, he knows that guy doesn't like people to remind him. So one day, a death takes a place in one of the members of that rich man. So this poor person, he came to give condolences. And unfortunately, he had his shoes on of that man who had given him. So as soon as he came to give, and as soon as he came and wanted to give condolences, one of the people who had received him is the one who's rich, because maybe he's a cousin of that dead person. It's a real story, by the way. So he said to him, don't worry, jump on it. It's my shoes and I know how good it is. But in Arabic it's more funny. دوس دوس دي جزمتي وانا عارفها. شيخ مصري هو. والله يعني لا يدخل الجنة منان. منان, the one who reminds people of favors, they will not enter paradise. منان يا أخي. So if that person is going to show off, I'm sorry. But if that gift you don't like it, you may no problem. You say, brother, I like it. I want this gift. Maybe somebody else's better. You have something else? No problem. Prophet ﷺ, he had a خميصة فيها أعلام. Sent it to Abu Jahm radiallahu anh. He sent it to him, and it had some patterns in it. Every time he prays, he can't pray properly with it. So he said, send it back and give me the Ambijaniya, which got no patterns in it, even which is cheaper because no colors in it. So if you're a mobile shopkeeper, for example, and you sell mobiles, you've got lots of mobiles, somebody gave him a gift as a mobile. I mean, you're not in need of mobile, are you? Okay. Jazakallah khair, brother. But you know, but I sell mobiles, you know. You could give that to somebody else. You could give me something else if you want, even cheaper than a mobile. Huh? So that's no problem, inshallah, because you're not, as long as you show to the person, I'm not returning the gift because I don't want it, it's because I have got no use of it. Okay? Now. Problem. Is it permissible for a Muslim to be buried in a non-Muslim graveyard? No.
And if not, what do you do to rectify?
What do I do to rectify? Well, ask the question, what are the options in front of you? Not in this country, you'll be able to go and dig him out. No way. See what I mean? You're not. They will put you in prison. Straight away. Because you're not allowed to dig a person out. Has to be a council and then bring it and it's a big issue. So you tell me which land and I'll tell you. So you have what's option you have in front of you. So if the option, for example, that he is in a Muslim land and that person can be removed and moved to another place where there will be no breakage of his bone, then you must move him to a Muslim land. But if it is not the case, then you can't. And we do have a moving of a person after 6 months of his burial. Companions, Abdullah ibn Haram, he died as a martyr in the Battle of Uhud, and his son Jabir, he said, I didn't like my father to be buried with somebody else, because at the time of the companions of the Battle of Uhud, 2 people be buried together. So I didn't like to be next to somebody with somebody. I wanted him with his own. So I came after 6 months. And then when I dug the grave, he was exactly the same as he was, except for a little bit of his ears. Now, I mean, you could say that maybe in 6 months in England, because it's freezing weather during the winter, you could find that maybe the body is a bit of intact. But in Saudi Arabia, you put a piece of meat for 6 hours, it's finished. Never mind 6 months. So they dug him out and he removed him and he put him in a separate grave. Just like he had made a separation between the 2 graves. And I've mentioned here as well, there was a story. Have I mentioned that the story of, there was one of the years at the time of Shaykh Muhammad ibn Ibrahim, when he was in charge of the Ministry of Endowment in the Medina. There is a Wad al-Aqiq, and there's a place where, not far away from the masjid, where Masjid al-Shajara, where the people make ihram from the Hulayfa. Battle of Yamamah. Battle of Yamamah is that the Muslim companion fought the people who are claimed to be, they were apostated, and Musaylam al-Kadhab was killed as well in that battle. So those companions, and this well-known graveyard, companions were buried there. The flood took place, we're talking about here, about 70 years ago or 80 years ago. 70 years ago maybe. The flood took place, and this is in the book. And the water had reached in the valley, what's called Valley al-Aqiq, up to the cemetery. And it took some sand with it, dirt with it, and exposed one of the graves. And the grave is really high, you can't reach him from the ground, you have to have a big ladder, because it's from the valley and it was on the edge of the valley. And there was a person, showing from there, his back and it's a big, sort of long braid, because the Qibla had braids, and it's like it's got a braid and it's got like a imama, because it's a martyr. They don't really wash and everything. They be buried with their clothes. So the Shaykh who had seen that, not Muhammad Ibrahim, a Shaykh, one of the Shaykh, the great scholars, I can't remember what's his name, but he went and he wanted to, cover him. So he went and he put his hand inside the grave and he felt his face complete. And that's we're talking about 1,400 years plus. And when they did this, they phoned Shaykh Muhammad, they called Shaykh Muhammad Rahim and told him about this issue. So they said, come during the night, and he made some group of people to dig him out and move him in the middle of the grave, and nobody would know about him. Because he will be taking shirk, Shaykh. So he is in the middle of the graveyard, there nobody knows where he is. But that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, you could say, blessings and karama, honoring those people who are martyrs. Now, and that's by the authentic story. Shaykh Mud Tuwajri had put it in his book. Now, there's a story flying around about Shaykh Ibn Baz. I need to make sure that you are aware it is not authentic. Some brothers are pushing it around. And brothers, I'm talking about the Salafi brothers, which is about Shaykh Ibn Baz. Shaykh Ibn Baz is a great Shaykh. He is one of the Shuyukh of our era. He is one of those who look at him as one of those Mujaddideen, rahimahullah. But there's a story of him that he was, when he was the head of the University of Al-Madinah, there was a student who was from Africa, whom he had a roommate who had come to him and came inside, and he had stretched his hand about more 6 meters to close the door. And he was a jinni, but in a human being form, graduated from Medina. And that, without any laughing, believe me that this, even though what is being said, and the Shaykh had documented that in a book about Shaykh Ibn Baz. Okay? And they said even the driver of the Shaykh Ibn Baz, okay, saw that man who was a jinn. So, Jazahullahu khayran, may Allah reward him. Our Shaykh Abdul Muhsin Al-Abbadi, the scholar. A long time ago, from that time, he said, this story is strange. That the Shaykh had gave him certificate, graduated him, and he said, don't tell about him. It's a jinn in human being form. It's jinn Salafi, okay? Salafi jinn. There is Salafi jinn, but I'm just saying like that. So the Shaykh had phoned because he had phoned the driver. What did he see that? He said, yeah, I saw it. And then he said, Shaykh so and so. So he phoned the other Shaykh. He said, no, this is not happening. If it been happened, everybody would know him. The close Shaykh from the Shaykh Ibn Baz would know it. So that story is fabricated. So the person who had made the book, he promised that he will take it out of the book. It's not from the Shaykh Ibn Baz. So please, brothers, fear Allah of what you are passing around. Now what you got now is something that you've been entrusted with. So don't just input, output. You're a human being, you got brains. So input into your brain, whatever you receive, juggle it about. Is it okay? Alhamdulillah. Output. If it is not, then output a different way. Underneath. Do you understand me? Output. But not output like this way. Wallah, to some people they just pass. MashaAllah. And they're very quick. Spread rumors and lies. Fine. Last question, please. Last question. There's no question for the sisters? Fadal.
If somebody invites you to your house,
Yeah.
you tell somebody else. It happened to me before.
Yep.
Like the two brothers, one brother showed up. Is that permissible? I wasn't aware of this. Some people.
So you invited somebody.
Yeah, 2 people.
You invited 2 people, and those 2 people brought you an army. You are allowed to say to them, brothers, I did not invite you, for verily you could go home. And they shoot these people, إِنْ قِيلَ لَكُمْ ارْجِعُوا فَارْجِعُوا وَأَزْكَى لَكُمْ. Go back. For the Prophet ﷺ, one day he was invited. So when he came to the invitation, he had some people with him. So he said to the host, I've got people with me. You could just say to them if you want, accept it, or they could return back. He said, Messenger of Allah, the guest of the Prophet is my guest. So he took them. So it's up to the host. So you are the host. Brothers, I didn't make food for 100 people. Okay, I made 3 points for 2 people and I want the 2 people. And forgive me, I'm my house and I'm not really. Apologize. I'm remind them of the verse. If you've been said to you, go back, then go back, and it's good for you. Good for you. خلاص. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. مخدرات. شفت السيارة عرفتها كيف أنت؟ هي سيارة بنتي هاي. بنتي.
سيارتي خربت.
ما عندي سيارة.